The Battle of Hogwarts took place as one of the most famous battles in the wizarding world. Numerous students, staff, parents, graduates, and friends of Hogwarts rose to the school defense in its hour of need. Thanks to Harry, Voldemort was permanently destroyed and his Death Eaters disbanded forever. Hogwarts sustained extensive damage during the battle. Multiple areas of the main building were set on fire or blown up. After the battle, Hogwarts was repaired. Some students returned to the school in 1988 to complete their education. And here lies the subject of today's video: what happened to Hogwarts professors. I've made a similar video before about what happened to these characters after Hogwarts, which you can watch right here. But for now, let's get started. Starting first with McGonagall. With the conclusion of the war, Professor McGonagall was awarded the Order of Merlin First Class by Ministry of Magic 𝐒𝐿𝐔𝐁𝐒𝐂𝐑𝐈𝐁𝐿 for unwavering allegiance to the Order of Phoenix. 4 months later, Minerva was also officially appointed to the position of Headmistress by the Hogwarts Board of Governors, by which time the extensive damages done to the castle had been duly repaired, the protective enchantments surrounding the castle restored, and the faculty ready to accept new students for the next school year. During this term, the school also guided those who didn't complete their studies due to their blood status, like Hermione Granger, who finished her MEWTS. In the time that followed, Professor McGonagall was responsible for finding someone to replace her as the school transfiguration teacher, finding a new, permanent replacement for the post of Defense Against the Dark Arts instructor, the eventual employment of her former student Neville Longbottom to the herbology department under head of department Pomona Sprout. 10 years after the Battle of Hogwarts took place, Minerva gave Hermione, who had since joined the ministry, permission for Dumbledore's old notes on the tales of Beedle the Bard to be published as part of her new translation of the book. Rubeus Hagrid. Even with the new headmaster Severus Snape, Hagrid continued his job as gamekeeper and professor of Carrow magical creatures. He was placed in charge of students who had been assigned detention. Detention with Hagrid consisted of work in the Forbidden Forest, which was far safer than detention with Amycus and Alecto Carrow. Later that year, Hagrid escaped arrest after holding a support Harry Potter party in his hut. He then went into hiding in the mountains with his half-brother Grab. Hagrid returned to Hogwarts with Grab for the final battle, but he was taken by the Death Eaters. When the fight resumed, Hagrid was the reason of the arrival of Buckbeak and Distrolls, as well as the Centaurs to fight. Hagrid was among the first to approach and congratulate Harry after Voldemort's ultimate defeat. He was seen in the Great Hall among the other survivors of the battle. Hagrid was still working at Hogwarts by 2017, at 89 years old, owing the natural aging of wizard kind, which also meant that he would likely have an extremely long life by Muggle standards. He sometimes invited Harry and Ginny's youngest son Albus to his hut for tea, just as he had done during Harry's first year. Hagrid never married despite his attraction to Madame Maxim, as she was ultimately too complex for them to be a good match. Horace Slughorn. When the Dark Lord invaded the castle with his army, it was initially believed that Slughorn had fled in cowardice, but as it appears he had gone to Hogsmeade to round up reinforcements. He returned to the castle at the head of a large number of residents and shopkeepers from the town, several Slytherin students who also returned to defend the school. Slughorn engaged the Dark Lord head-on, with McGonagall and Kingsley, proving himself a masterful duelist, able to hold his own against the most dangerous dark wizard of all time. Slughorn was one of the last to duel Voldemort before his death, believing he could find redemption for what he told him many years earlier about Horcruxes. After the battle, he sat at the Great Hall by Pomona Sprout and Phileas Flitwick, telling of how he had lost his wand during the fighting. Slughorn continued teaching after the battle and probably became the head of Slytherin House, replacing Severus Snape, who died during the war. Slughorn's bravery at the Battle of Hogwarts was well publicized and changed the perception of Slytherin House for the better. Horace Slughorn retired permanently by 2016 and had the honor of having a portrait of himself placed in the Slytherin common room. Dolores Umbridge. While Umbridge wasn't a professor during the Deathly Hallows, as she left her post at the end of the Order of Phoenix, I think we have the right to know what happened to her later. Following Voldemort's takeover of the Ministry of Magic, Umbridge oversaw the registration and persecution of Muggle-born witches and wizards. Under the Muggle-born Registration Commission, she conducted trials subjecting innocent Muggle-borns to the prison of Dementors and sending them to Azkaban for supposedly stealing magic from real witches and wizards. After Voldemort's death and the reformation of the Ministry of Magic by 𝐘𝐿𝐷, Umbridge was arrested, tried, convicted, and sent to Azkaban for life for her crimes against Muggle-borns, as not all of them survived. That was the fate she deserved after all. Sybill Trelawney. Trelawney participated in the Battle of Hogwarts. She fought by dropping crystal balls on enemies' heads, successfully knocking out Fenrir Greyback as he attacked Lavender Brown. Trelawney continued using her wand to throw crystal balls into the heads of Death Eaters, and you can see her here if you look closely. Professor Trelawney survived the Second Wizarding War and continued to teach well into the 2010, continuing her tradition of predicting the death of her students. Trelawney wrote a book entitled My Eyes and How to See Past Them. It was one of the books that Hermione kept on the shelves in her office at the British Ministry of Magic. The book spoke aloud the beginning of the riddle necessary to find the hidden time turner. Amycus and Alecto Carrows. Amycus and Alecto were made Defense Against the Dark Arts and Muggle Studies Professor respectively. The Defense Against the Dark Arts was changed so that it was now simply Dark Arts. Amycus had his 7th year practice the 𝐒𝐿𝐷 curse on people who have won detentions. The Carrows chased Neville, who chose the Room of Requirement as a hideout, and the rest of Dumbledore's army soon followed his footsteps and moved into the room. As Voldemort became aware that Harry was hunting down and destroying his Horcruxes, he instructed Amycus and Alecto that Harry might try to get into the castle and Ravenclaw Tower. Alecto immediately touched her dark mark, letting Voldemort and all the Death Eaters know that they had got Harry. Alecto was immediately stunned by Luna. Amycus saw his unconscious sister, but no sign of Harry, as both he and Luna were hidden beneath his invisibility cloak. When McGonagall called Amycus a coward, he spat in her face. This enraged Harry to the point of revealing himself by throwing a 𝐒𝐿𝐷 curse at Amycus with such force that he slammed into the wall. McGonagall then bewitched him with the Imperious Curse to carry his unconscious sister. Then the siblings were tied up, where they were left dangling beneath the ceiling. Neither Amycus nor his sister fought in the Battle of Hogwarts, as both of them were kept tied up at the Ravenclaw Tower. And after the battle and the end of the Second Wizarding War, Amycus was imprisoned in Azkaban for his crimes committed as a Death Eater, along with his sister. The reason why I didn't mention the rest of Hogwarts staff, including Phileas Flitwick, Pomona Sprout, Madame Hooch, and many more, is because they just continued teaching the subject they taught before or after the war, with nothing new to mention. Now you've made it till the end of the video. If you enjoyed this one, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe. Also feel free to comment down below your thoughts and ideas. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.